Vulnerability is basically being willing to expose your weaknesses to other people in an attempt to be more personal with your relationships. Hey, Aaron Bergen here with Suicide Sucks. Today I'm going to talk about how to ask for help. Oftentimes there are challenges in our lives that are overwhelming, but we're afraid to admit that we are overwhelmed. We're afraid to admit that we have weakness. And the principle that is behind this topic that we really need to learn and figure out how to utilize is the ability to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is basically being willing to expose your weaknesses to other people in an attempt to be more personal with your relationships. I often like to say that suicide is a personal problem. It's not that people have personal problems, but that we as a people have a problem being personal. And so part of today's intent is to discuss ways that we can be more personal with our relationships. And it starts with being able to ask for help when we need it. So, step one, be humble. You have to recognize that you are not perfect and neither is anybody else. That Facebook and social media platforms are a facade. They are a face that are helping people portray their best selves. So if you're comparing yourself against your friends and against your family and their social media profiles, you need to remember that that is their best self. And so the way that you're feeling currently could be your worst self. Comparing yourself at your worst to their social media best is not safe, nor is it healthy. So first, step one, be humble. Step two, admit to your inadequacy. There are oftentimes things in our lives that we haven't quite grown up having had experience in. There are things that I have not been trained in and how to fix around my house. Or I don't have the tools, whether that's intellectual or literal, physical tools, to accomplish the tasks that I need to accomplish. So first I need to be humble, and second I need to recognize that I have inadequacies and that I could have an overwhelming amount of stress related to my job, related to my workload at home with my children, related to the debt that we have on our shoulders, and a relationship that we have that isn't working the way we think or expect it to. The third step would be to recognize true friends. True friends or family members or loved ones in our lives that are willing to work with us and help us overcome our inadequacy. What do I mean by that? What I mean not necessarily is that they come in and take over our lives, but they come in and they help us develop a new method of handling our current level of stress or our workload with a new perspective. When you create more personal relationships in your life, you will have better friends and better connections with family members that you will be able to lean on them when you do have an inadequacy that you need help with. So now it gets to the point where, well, how do you ask for help? Consider the people that have reached out to you with love or with any act of kindness. You can think about one or two individuals that you should be able to trust, that you can go to in a time of need and talk about your inadequacies and get their help and their support through the challenges that you're facing. Give them something specific that you're struggling with. Discuss with them some of the challenges that you may be facing. Discuss with them some of the weaknesses or the inadequacies in your life that are causing extra load of stress or weight on your shoulders. By allowing them to decide how to help you and work through that together, you can come up with some very specific things that either that you can do to make changes or that they can do to help you. And it'll be your responsibility, not theirs, to follow up with them on how that goes. They still care about you and they still want to hear about how things are going. And it's up to you to reach out back to them and let them know that you're the one struggling. Turning to our friends and our family and those that we love, that we have personal relationships with, is a far better alternative to dealing with our challenges and with coping with our overwhelming burdens than suicide. Suicide sucks. So the next time you think about suicide as your answer to your overwhelming burden, I want you to think about your friends and your family, and instead of thinking how they're not currently helping you the way they should be, I want you to think about how can you ask them for help dealing with the burden that you're currently carrying. And I promise you that if you reach out to those that love you, they will surprise you with their kindness. They will surprise you with the amount of energy that they are willing to put into the relationship you have with them in order to make sure that you are safe and well taken care of. The last step in asking for help is to make sure that you pass it on. Make sure you're the friend that reaches out and says, hey, how you doing with this? Hey, how you doing with that? And when people do good for you, that you do good for others, the cycle can continue and the world can be a better place. So you just remember, suicide sucks.